Okay, so I had like the scariest thought. I'm just going to make this a quick short video to share it. But this thought is currently in the world, Japan and Russia hate each other, right? Always have. Well, they're really both very imperialistic traditionally. And I think the second the United States is gone, you're going to see Japan acting a lot more like Japan in 1939. A lot of people don't realize that there's still an emperor of Japan. They surrendered to us. We put limits on their government. That is a sleeping dragon. And they are one of the most technologically advanced nations on earth. And one of their key things that they really, 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 really need always is oil and natural resources like steel and wood and shit like that. Gold, whatever. They live on an island. They need everything. You know what Russia has a shit ton of? Everything. They have a shit ton of everything. Russia is like Alaska. Alaska has everything. And Russia is like Alaska, but bigger. So the scary thing here is, let's say the United States stops projecting world power, right? China wouldn't like Japan. But Russia, honestly, Russia wouldn't care if they're dealing with the Japanese or dealing with the Chinese. I think very realistically, what could happen is Russia and Japan team up on China. China's weak right now. Most people aren't talking about this, but they have internal problems galore. They have all the problems of the United States times 10. The Japanese have problems too. Don't get me wrong. But the Japanese and the Russians, I think, are poised to weather this storm very, very well. And they're going to need each other. One's going to have tech, and one's going to have resources. And I think we'll have our own problems probably by that point. And maybe that'll cause problems for them too. Who knows? But this is something that I would be really worried about if I were the American government. I would be very, very closely monitoring Japanese-Russian communications. I can't be the only one on earth who fucking thought of this. And the thing that made me think of this is I've been looking into Steven Seagal and Putin. And Steven Seagal is very, very Japanese, weirdly. And this backdoor karate fucking route into Japan, Putin could pitch something to the Emperor of Japan. This is the thing, is that Japan is led by one man. And if they have some sort of an in through a cultural attaché like Steven Seagal, they could turn an entire fucking country on us. If you really wanted to upset the balance of power in the world right now, have Japan switch from America to Russia. And have Japan start instantly building nuclear bombs, which they probably already are doing. I would be if I were them. I would be doing a lot of shit right now if I were them, because it looks like the United States isn't going to be around anymore. And the whole world that the Japanese grew up in was predicated on America being a thing. And if they're free of us in a lot of ways. Japanese are very, very interesting people. The last time they were freed up from our influence, they took over most of China, committed a bunch of war crimes. I imagine they'd probably do that again. And like this is the thing is that the Japanese and Chinese are definitely headed for a war in the future. If the Chinese invade Taiwan, Japan will attack China. I guarantee you that if I were in Japan and I saw that, I would not sit idly by. That's one of those, like, they have trade agreements with the Taiwanese are their friends, and above all, if they don't fucking do something now, they're next. And it seems Russia and China to some extent are buddy. I think that's mostly because they're both big powers in Asia, and they know they're always going to have to deal with one another, basically. And that's the thing is the Democrats are acting like they're never going to have to deal with Russia in the future. And Putin's basically negotiating with them like they have to because he has nukes. And they decided to throw a temper tantrum, so he invaded the Ukraine. This is what happens when you have children running your international affairs. If Trump was president, this shit wouldn't have happened. If you just had someone that was an adult to negotiate at a fucking table with the other adults from other countries, this wouldn't have happened. And this is my nightmare scenario to you, is that basically we live in a world where it's the Russo-Japanese Empire ruling the world, which very easily could be a thing. Russia has the resources and Japan has the tech. Japan's tech is basically on par with ours, maybe a little more advanced than ours. It comes and goes. It depends on exactly what it is. Some military technology we were always on the cutting edge of because, America, we spend money on guns. Really, our country is a perfect example of if you had it as a person, it would be my grandfather. My grandfather, loved the military and spent all of his money on guns and survival equipment for, World War III. That's the U.S. government. We spend money on a few other things too, like my grandfather would. My grandfather would occasionally just pay for somebody's dog to get taken care of or buy a round at the bar. Government does that kind of shit too. And what I'm saying is, my grandfather died in his sleep. That's going to happen to the American government. And when it does, what happens to all of these old alliances? Is everything really set in stone? Where do the Japanese go? Is RIMPAC still a thing? Is NATO still a thing? I think we're about to see some fucking changes on the map. And I don't know exactly when or how, but I really think that one of the big ones we're going to see is happening in this Russia, China, Japan sphere of influence. There's going to be something's going to happen here. I don't know exactly what. And Korea is in this mix too. There's both Koreas. I don't know who's going to be left. It'd be funny if the only one left is North Korea after all this is over. It's like the rest of the world ends around them, and Kim Jong-un or whatever his name is like, oh, no more basketball. Okay, peasants back to work. The world goes on, and the only thing left of our civilization is North Korea and Mount Rushmore. Be kind of trippy. Thanks for watching.